My guest on the show this week is a very funny man indeed, but also known as a very much consummate actor. In fact, you'll probably see him on your TV screens in the ad breaks. But for me, he's always a man that has simply made me laugh, and has done so for decades. He shot to fame on the hit show The Comedians. But now I'd like you to meet and welcome into your living rooms the one and only, the very brilliant Mr. Duggie Brown. To finally see you and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a real thrill for me.
It's my pleasure. It's a shame we're not in your studio with all the Dom Perignon champagne and the little... We're both managed as we are.
Well, listen, first of all, a very belated, Duggie, congratulations as King Rat.
Yes.
A wonderful thing for any performer to have. Tell me about that and how did it come around and what was the night like and all that sort of thing?
Well, it was a really wonderful. It was a night I will never ever forget. You know, and I've been a long time in the business, 60-odd years. But I became a water rat in 35 years ago. It was Les Dawson who seconded me, and Roger De Courcy proposed me. But I never thought at that time I would ever reach the Charlie Chaplin. I mean, they're different. You walk into the Dorchester and you look around all the banners of the people who've been water rats, like the recent ones like Rick Wakeman, Paul Daniels, Frankie Vaughan, going back, and then, as I said, Charlie Chaplin, Peter Sellers was a water rat and all that. So I never thought I would ever join that hierarchy, you know. Yeah. And then to be suddenly, and what happened was I went away cruising for quite a lot. I had about 12 years cruising, so I didn't get to so many lodge meetings that I should do. And then I started to go by, and I got really interested again. And then somebody come and said, "We'd like to put you up as Prince Rat, and would you take it?" And I went, "Wow, would I?" And just to be Prince Rat was wonderful, but then to find myself in King Rat, and now with it, our unfortunate problem, the state of the country just now, I've been doing it for 2 years, which is not many people. Ted Ray did it for 2 years, and Paul Daniels, well, not a lot of people have done it. And Rick Wakeman, I think, did 2 years as well. So I'm joining a nice company, and I'm loving every minute of it. And I do all the birthday cards, everything here, because we send out cards to all Brother Water Rats. I have a list of them on my wonderful office here, and I print them out. My wife, Jackie, she's really good, and she helps make them individual to each person. So we've just sent one off to Simon King, the hairy bikers. It's his birthday on the 20th, and we design it for him, so it becomes a personal tribute to him, you know.
I'm so thrilled for you, honestly, because, as you say, there are certain things in this business that we all aspire to. You've done them all, but it's like the Palladium, the Water Rats, and just really other comics kind of acknowledging that you are good at the job. You know what I mean? That's the deal, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and a bit of a creep.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, the Water Rats is such a great, like an organisation. A lot of people think it's called the Grand Order, but we do so much for, basically our first care is for entertainers who entertain the world and probably for years, and some of them fall on bad times or whatever, and we help them whenever we can. And we've got a nice house called Brinsworth House where the entertainers go in there, and some of them have spent all their money, sort of thing. Yeah. So it does a lot. But also, we do charities worldwide. We get an application. Somebody has heard about us, and I'm part of the trustees now, but only through being king. And we look through it and we say, is this a good case? And we're trying to help them out and let them have money. And just now, of course, we're getting a lot of people who are struggling because our entertainment business just stopped in March last year, and we're all saying no work, you know, and thank goodness I do 1 or 2 little commercials.
Well, you say that a little commercial. I see you all the time on the telly. I saw you last night, actually. You were at a doorway with this kid running up some stairs, you know. And I thought, oh, that's Duggie, you know.
Yeah, that's the Heart Foundation. That's the playing guy with dementia. But what happened was I did one for them, and I got on so well. He's such a great little actor. They call him Mikey Pickles, and he's going to be a really big star.
Yeah.
He leaves us all standing. Anyway, they give me the job, and I got on so well with him, and I was showing him computers, how to work them and all that. And we became best of friends, and then I got another one, and I think it was basically because I made him feel at ease. And he did a really good job. And so, and then they've given me this one again. They're repeating this. You know.
I love the one, I have to say, Duggie, where I was just explaining to the producer, Thomas, that you jump over this stile in this country.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant because it's so well done, isn't it? The way that they make you look like you're doing it. Well, you are doing it.
Oh. Well, I was, yes. That was for that supermarket firm. Yeah, it was good. And once again, that had so many views. And I did finish up 4 for them. I've done actually for all the supermarket chains of time. I did Waitrose last year. And,
posh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But listen,
well, that was lovely.
That
was directed, I'm jumping in. That was directed by Declan Lowney, who did all Father Ted.
Oh,
and all those.
Yes.
He had a great comedy timing, and that's why it was so good.
Yeah. Oh, I love Father Ted. But listen, we're going to talk about you. Now, I didn't realise that would you be right in saying that your break was the 6-5 special? Was the first time you got a break on. How did that come around? Because to anybody watching this who doesn't remember, 6-5 special was precursor to Top of the Pops. Big show at 6 o'clock on BBC, and it was for the hip and happening, wasn't it?
Yes.
Of that era. Tell me about your involvement.
Could I correct you there? Because the programme was called 6-5 Special. It was actually 6:05, not 6 o'clock, because it was live.
Oh, yeah.
You know what happened? I was part of a group. We were all from Rotherham. We were all still around, all doing different things. And we were called the 4 Imps. And then we changed our name to the 4 Cool Cats when we went for this competition, which the cinemas were running on behalf of the 6-5 Special. And he was judged by P. Murray and Josephine Douglas. And we went to the interview, the audition in Worksop. And we won. And the prize was a visit and a few weeks on 6-5 Special, where we played the opening music. And that was 1958, July 1958. Gosh. And the comp at that time on the tour was Jim Dale. So we had Jim Dale, and Terry Scott was on because of Pete and Joey. By the way, during my water rats, Pete Murray is a water rat, and he was 95 a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I love Pete Murray. I do. I remember his open house to you on, Radio 2. Yeah. Brilliant guy. I mean, he's like yourself. What you've got to do, I think what's fascinating about that is when you got that job, that gig, right, Duggie, did you think, because obviously this is pre-video, you can't watch it unless you watch it live, because that's the deal, isn't it? What did your mum and dad think? But did they think, oh, our Duggie's on his way now, that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, it was. It was a great step up the ladder. And then also through our performances on the clubs around the area, we got in touch. I was through a guy called Stanley Joseph at ATS. And then they put us in, but I did the good old days, City Varieties. And one of the judges, went to see the show, was Johnny Ham, and also Barney Colahan, who was the director of the good old days. And when Johnny devised the comedians in 1971, I'd left the group by then. I left in 68. And because I had a daughter with my first wife, who I wanted her to go to school in Yorkshire, and we were working abroad. We were working for the Americans most of the time, also in Scotland, but I didn't want her to go to school in Scotland. So I left the group and I became a guitarist who told an odd gag. Then I found out that comedians got paid a little bit more, so I moved down the comedy star. And then Johnny picked me for one of the comedians, and that was it. And I took Charlie Williams to his first recording. I picked him up in Barnsley, and I said, because Charlie got on it, because I'd done well for the first recording of it. And I picked him in the pub. I said, what are you going to do, Charlie? He said, I'm going to make as much money as I can, love, and I'm going to, then I'll get out of it. And like 40 years later, he was still making people laugh. It was a great program for us. But during that time, in 69, through this office, ATS, they had a casting section. And Ken Loach came up to make a film with a lot of local entertainers, comedians, which was Kes. And I got into Kes through that. So through the years, my intention, and it's happened, I've kept the two careers, acting and doing stand-up, running side by side.
Yes.
And I've been so lucky because I did I've done Shakespeare, but it's all through the start of it. But I mean, it was a conscious thought. And when the comedians were so big, we were getting 17 million views we used to get on. I mean, it was phenomenal. Well, there were only 4 channels. Yeah. But when we did that, and the lads went away, and like Burnham Man, they went to earning a fortune, I went down to the Royal Court for £293 a week with Bassey Pollock to do a play, and I learnt out, and I thought that career will keep me. I wanted to be in the business forever, which is basically happening. But I didn't want it to burn out, and I thought I can't do stand-up when I'm 80, but I can do stand-up now, like I still do it. So, because it's a lovely business, and I've seen every capital in the world through cruising, and been extremely lucky,
Let me take you back to the good old days, because for those that are watching that don't remember it, it was again a massive programme, and the theatre itself, the beautiful City Varieties, they started that show, didn't they, in 1953. Barney Colohan was such a clever producer, I thought, didn't you? He had that moustache that made him look theatrical, didn't he? You remember? And of course, Stanley and Michael Joseph, correct me if I'm wrong, they ran the theatre, didn't they? They had the City Varieties, yeah. So a very good compact unit to be working with.
I actually worked it for their father, was Harry Joseph, for Stanley and Michael. They were just kids. Yeah, when I first worked it, we were in the and we had a show on Whitsuntide, Whit Monday, and at the Empire in Leeds there was a group called Morton Fraser's Harmonica Gang, and 2 of them came around to see us after the show because they didn't have a matinee show, and they started out, because I was not the leader of the group, but I'd put more mouth in as I'm talking now, and the 3 guys came backstage and they said, "We enjoy your show, but what you should be doing, you should learn to bow like this, and always look at the circle if you can, but then bow." And he went on, and when they went out, and I said to the lads, I said, "Just listen to me, don't listen to me, don't know what he's talking about." And that was Gordon Mills, who went on to manage talk shows. Where did I go wrong?
You see, but that's the beauty of being younger, isn't it? Because when you're young, Dougie, you're meeting all these people, but you don't know their destiny, like they don't know yours. So you're thinking, oh, yeah, he's got that. Yeah, he's got that. But at that time, you're in your mind doing your own thing,
Yeah. Did one of the seasons, lots of seasons in Scotland, but we were at the Gaiety Theatre in Ayr. The comedian was a guy called Larry Marshall, and he had a very good Scottish feed of them. And he played wonderful guitar, really good guitar, this guy. And he kept coming and saying, can I play? And he used to sit down and play guitar with us. And at the end, I said, "Look, we got our rehearsal. Do you mind?" And that was Tom Conti.
Oh. Yeah, you see, that's what I mean. You don't know, do you? Because you think, oh, well, will they make it or not or whatever. When you were growing up, right, Dougie, who made you laugh? Who was, I'm always fascinated by comedians because you make us laugh. But I'm also thinking, well, when you sit down and, particularly when you were starting out, who was the person that you thought, he's funny. He makes me laugh.
Well, Robb Wilton was wonderful. I love timing. I love to see people timing a gag like Jack Benny, and who can they just know when to look off stage and when to look. Man, I love George Burns. I think George is wonderful. George, managed to see him in Vegas from the back of the theatre, but it was wonderful to watch him. And even then, he was about 19. Somebody said to him, what are you doing for your 100th birthday? He said, "For my 100th birthday," he said, "I'm going to work at the Palladium. I hope the theatre's still there." He was nuts.
He's brilliant, though, isn't he? And Robb Wilton, as you say, he was a clever man because, a bit like yourself, he straddled, if you like, film and acting along with being a stand-up, comedian, whatever you want to call it. He was famous for that. I love that sketch, the fireman sketch, where the woman's he's on the phone. I don't know if I always say to the young people watching, watch, as you rightly say, Dougie, watch these people because it's the timing that is brilliant. It's just the way he pulls the face, moves off, and would you agree?
you're wonderful. I mean, one of my, no, I'm not big-headed, but I'm so proud of it. We used to, Howard Keel used to do a golf tournament in Manchester every September, and I played in it most years. They used to bring like Telly Savalas and different people, Paul Williams, Johnny Mathis came every year. And one year he brought Jack Lemmon was over. Oh, yeah. And afterwards we were in the bar and we were having a little section cordoned off. And with it being, I was working the American cruise ships, which has slightly changed my, not to talk American, but mention American words, as you say, bar instead of pub and all things like that. So I changed it. But with the majority of the audience were all from the UK. So I reverted to what I call my Barnsley accent. And afterwards, Jack Lemmon, he said, I enjoyed your show. And I said, you wouldn't understand the word. He said, I recognise timing. And that's all. I mean, I'm like this, like, you know, Jack Lemmon, I recognise timing. Yeah.
That's the thing of your job as well. You get to meet your icons, you know, because you've probably seen him in a film at the cinema and you think, I'll never meet him. You know what I mean? It's that thing, isn't it? Let me talk about the Comedians, because the Comedians to me is one of the best shows ever that they put together for comedy. Who did you enjoy on the show? Because I loved you. I loved them all, actually. I loved Charlie. Charlie, because you had our accent, he really related to me. You know what I mean? I thought, I get him. You know, I understood people like that. I've been lucky enough to interview the lovely Johnny Hampin. He told me his version of how he put it together. But when you went there for the first time, did you understand the concept, or did you think, oh, will this work? I'm not sure, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's funny. There was a guy called Mike Goddard who was a stand-up comedian, and I was working at the Kirk Sandal, the Kiki Club in Kirk Sandal in Doncaster, and Mike was on as well. And he said, I said, what are you doing? He said, on Tuesday I've got this interview for this thing. They're doing some sort of show. I think it's called The Comedian or whatever, something like that. So he said, get your agent. So I got Stanley Joseph to ring up and find, and he spoke to Johnny. And Johnny said, yeah, bring Duggie over. But like you said, we didn't know. We thought, I mean, for years, I never met like Mike Reid. Mike joined about 5 years later from us starting. But people used to think we stood in line and put our hand up and went, I've got a joke. Yeah. And I never met him because it was just all done by editing, you know. So Johnny Hamp used to put it together. But from that original day's recording was February the 13th, 1971. There's only me and Johnny left. Yo. There's a picture. Yeah, there's only the two of us. Yeah,
but look what they've left behind as well, all that laughter, you know. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
My favourite was Frank Carson. Frank was the best for me. Because I first, he said, when we were with a group in Scotland, he came to do a show in Dunoon. And he said, can any hear you guys talk? So I said, yeah, I'm talking. You my feed. And we went outside and we had a bag of chips sat on the steps. He said, I walk on, you walk on. I say this, you say that. I say this, you say that. You get off, I get the laugh. That was and he said that I only started doing comedy because he made it look so easy.
That's what I mean, you see. It must have been, maybe actually as well, that was quite clever actually, Duggie, of Johnny not to have you all together, because apparently, I remember, I think it was Johnny who told me, and maybe George Roper, that Bernard, if he heard your jokes, would go on and tell them, you know.
Yeah. Once again, timing, Bernard, and I think Bernard and Jimmy Tarbuck are the best timers of gags. Best timing. But Bernard he was very crafty, because when he was in the role, we'd have a lot of new comics coming in. And we used to have a chalkboard because we'd done so many shows. So we'd have it on a blackboard and the stagehand would hold it. So he would do a lot of filth, Bernard, at the start. And all the audience would love it, you know. But Johnny Hampno and Bernard knew that they weren't going to use any of it. So then suddenly in the middle, he'd put in like 4 really good, strong, clean gags. Yeah. Then revert the filth. Right? Then he would walk off and the new comic would come on and I said, we can swear, we can get away with it. And they would go on a door filth and not 1 inch was used of the tape because it was just too blue. Yeah. But they'd work, and so Bernard had done that on purpose. But sometimes your blackboard was all lined up like that. And when he'd finished it, he'd stay there and say, take it off. And he'd take his card off and behind would be George Roper's. And then he'd look down, oh yeah. And then go and do George's.
That's That's what I love about Bernard, you know. I just found him to be such a clever man, you know. I mean, he was, again, like yourself, very entrepreneurial. He had his own club, so he knew he'd always got somewhere to perform, which is vital, really, isn't it? Because if everybody says, we don't want you, you know, he's got his own club and filling it.
Some days he used to do 5 shows, you know. He never stopped.
Yeah.
He'd do like a Masonic at lunchtime and then one in the afternoon and then an early show, then finish up at his own place.
Yeah.
But he did so much good work, Bernard, and he wouldn't allow you to talk about it or anything because it would ruin his image.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember a guy called Alan Randall?
Oh, yeah, the banjo man, yeah.
Yeah, banjo, brilliant. And Alan had his own car, a Mercedes Uke 1, and he was going down to Torquay, and his car broke down. He was in the lay-by, and Bernard Manning came by in the Cadillac Laugh 1, or 1 Laugh, and pulled in there. And then he had a driver, and he said to the driver, reverse him. And he reversed into the lay-by because he'd seen Alan was trying to mend his car. And Bernard went, what's the matter, lad? He said, the car's broken down. Right, there's a flask of tea in my car, in the Cadillac. Go and sit there and get yourself a flask of tea. I'll look at it. I used to work on cars. And he was in the rain, and he had the bonnet up, and he fixed it like that. And he got it, he said, there you are, it's working. Well done, lad. I'll see you down the show, whatever. And Alan said, I'm going to let the press know about this. And Bernard said, don't you dare. Yeah. And he told him, he said, the one thing you don't dare, because it would ruin his image. He thrived on that.
Well, and also it's true, isn't it? Because you see, and I think it's like with people like yourself, and we have to ask you about this, Duggie. There's always some joke that is associated with a particular comedian. And I've seen you do this gag many times live, and it's still like the first time. When you concocted the parrot joke, did you know, tell me about how that came around for you? And did you think this would define you as the comedian, as it were, you know?
Well, it just gradually became like that because I was working in the clubs, and then suddenly I got my finger really stuck in the microphone stand, and because of the concentrating my attention on this, I forgot the end. So that was it, and then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I got 27 laughs out of that one gag when it went out on air. 27 laughs, but I think I've told it once or twice since. You have to, because you can't forget something genuinely. It's like the juggler with 5 clubs. If you go and see him 3 nights and he always drops 1 club, then he does it. You know, you can't genuinely. So I tried to be genuine. So I couldn't do the gag all the time because the people you say, I had a row on the QE2 with the guy said, I'm disappointed. I said, well, he said, you didn't do the parrot gag. And I went, well, you know it. He said, yeah, but I wanted to hear it.
That's what I mean. Because I think the last time I saw you, we were together at the Grand Theatre in Blackpool. And do you remember, for some reason, the whole lighting and sound went off. And we all ended up outside, and then somebody got a torch and said, oh, it's all working. And you went on and did these just made the crowd laugh with no microphone, no nothing. And I thought, that's a pro, you know what I mean, to just keep us all entertained. It was, and when you say that to people, say, oh, I can't imagine that happened. I said, we're all just stood around, just waiting for somebody to come up with some electric. And it was a bit rubbish, wasn't it, that night?
I remember that, it was good. But if I see a chance to speak or do a gag, you know, I'm in there. I just love it. So.
Did you laugh today, though, Duggie? Is there anybody, because, you know, we see, what I find very strange, and you know, people say, oh, it's because you're older. When I see these comedy shows and things like Dave and stuff, I don't get the jokes. To me, I want, you know, a beginning, a middle, and end. And there's people like yourself, Johnny Carson, Roy Chubby Brown. You can say what you want. You fill theatres, you make people laugh, but you understand where the laugh's coming. Somebody said to me, oh, but these are surreal jokes. I think they're just not funny. I don't get it, you know? So who makes you laugh now?
Well, I mean, I'm not anti. There are some. I love Sean Locke.
Yes.
And I love Lee Mack. And so they've transgressed. They've come over the border, I call it.
Yeah.
But I mean, my synopsis of humour is always, it's embarrassment of others. You watch somebody slip on a banana skin, you laugh, and then you help them. You do anything to help them. But initially you laugh because it's not you.
Yes.
You know, and the reason of the success of God, I'm getting deep for me. The reason for the success of the comedians was that you could watch it and you could remember 2 or 3 gags. So you would go in the bar after and say, have you heard this one?
Yeah.
And you'd remember it, you know. But you watch McIntyre now, he said he was really good. What did he do? I don't know, but it was good.
Yeah.
Because they can't go and do a full routine.
Yeah, you're right there, Dougie, because you went off, didn't you? And you told your friends, whether you were older and went to the pub and said, did you see Dougie last night? Did you hear this joke? And then you repeat it. Never as well, but you know, you have a go.
But for that couple of minutes or 5 minutes, they're a comedian.
Yeah.
They took your mantle, they're a comedian, and they feel big, and especially to remember. But they always say a comedian's a man with a good memory, hopes everybody else hasn't.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Now, we got to also mention the fact that when the comedians went to the Palladium, nobody really, Johnny always told me this story, that they were always worried it wouldn't work down south, you know, because just the way that, although you had millions, you know, of viewers every week, people were saying, comedy doesn't really work like that down south. And what were your thoughts? North Pier.
Yeah. It ran for 27 weeks of sold out. 27 weeks.
What was it like at the end of the pier, though, Dougie, in the bad weather? Tell me about that.
Well, it was some days it was really rough and blowy, and Colin Crompton was known to have quite a nice forward Bobby Charlton hairstyle, which was lacquer. He had a ferocious lacquer on it. And I remember seeing him walk down the pier with this bit on and the wind caught his bit, and he went like that. And it looked like he had a penguin on his head. It looked like a beak going up and down. But sometimes it was the longest pier in Britain, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, that poster is actually in the foyer of the theatre, you know, because it was such a record-breaking season. A lot of people, you know, again, when you transfer things off TV onto stage, it doesn't always work, but you, as you say, sold it out every performance. That must be very thrilling as an artist, as a comic, walking down knowing you've got a full house every night, though, every day, you know.
It was wonderful. I loved it. And also, I play piano as well, so I could do my Gilbert O'Sullivan bit on the piano as well, and a bit of Les Dawson prior to it. So that made my section slightly different. And then the Wheel Toppers and Shunters was actually devised there.
Yes.
It was in there, and we closed the first half with it, you know, and it was a strong thing. So that would have worked in London. It became a variety show with comedians as opposed to being just stand-up. And we had nice girl dancers, and we had the banjo boys as well, the original. So it was a full package, and that was the success. We had George Roper, there was Stevie Fay, Mike Burton, who was wonderful. He was a great timer of a gag. And then top of the bill was Colin Crompton and Frank Carson at the time. And I was halfway down somewhere.
Oh yeah. Now Colin, as you say, he had a rather unique look, didn't he? But for those again that, and I mean this nicely, Dougie, for those that don't believe it, there were people like that in the world of the clubland who sat there and shouted as you were the turn on, didn't they? They did do that, you know.
Chairman, yeah. Well, I tell you, I was once in Joburg. I was comparing for Charles Aznavour, and I'm walking back through, and at that time, at night time, at 9:30, that Charles Aznavour didn't want. I introduced him, and then that was it. He did his own false tabs at the end of it, and we had a variety show in the beginning, which I did my bit, but I compared the whole show. So I was going home early. That's my reason for saying. I went through the underpass, and as I'm walking along, 4 people coming towards, 2 men, 2 women. And these 2 guys, quite portly, big gut on them like that. Both had dicky bows on, otherwise were dressed up, being out for dinner. And as we passed like that, this voice shouted, "Dougie, is Dick still chairman at Rawmarsh Club?" Because this is one of the ones you were on about. Dick was the chairman of the club, and he put the mic out of the way. And now the artist coming on. What was it he said one night? "Since being with us last time, they have won the Nottingham competition. So they see they are getting better."
And then you have to go on, don't you?
Yeah. And the competition could have been for mugging and shoplifting. You don't know. He just said they've won the Nottingham competition.
Do you miss those days though? Of there was the working men's clubs, and then there was the glamour clubs, weren't there? Of things like Wakefield Theatre Royal, Battle of Variety, Talk of the Town. You know, all of those places. That to me, I mean, I was too young to go to those things, but Dad worked a few of them, and they were kind of like part theatre, part Las Vegas, allegedly, weren't they? You know, was it like that for you?
Yeah, Batley. I worked with a lot, Shirley, Bassey, and all sorts of people at Batley. It was wonderful. That was really good. I always remember as well, I think it was Johnny Mathis was on. We had Johnny and the Sid Lawrence Orchestra and the Deb Set, who had a #1 hit, and Sid and Eddie, Little and Larger, also. Oh, yeah. So then Johnny Mathis did all the second half, and we stood at the bar, and this bloke stood there, and he's got his pint pot, and it cost about £1, £1.50 to get in, or £2, whatever, in that time, whatever it was. And Johnny's over here, and this bloke wouldn't look around. And I said, Johnny's on. And he went, not as good as he used to be, is he? They don't think that's what you had to make him turn around and look at you.
Yeah, because I don't know how true this is, but Alan Clegg, who used to be the general manager of Battle of Variety, we sadly just lost him actually, Dougie, but he was a lovely man and knew him very well. And he told me the story that when Shirley Bassey was on, she didn't want drinks being served because she didn't, you know, she thought this was off-putting. But obviously that's how they made their money, wasn't it? To get you to spend a lot of booze, and then they paid you, you know. So what was it like working with Dame Shirley Bassey? She's back with a new album. I mean, that, you know, she never gives in.
Yeah, I saw a nice picture of her. She was wonderful, but very straight. It had to be dead right, you know. And one of the stage hadn't been swept correctly from the night before, and she sung like, as long as he needs me, whatever. And then she looked off of the stage, and I think it was Dan was the stage manager, and she said, the stage hasn't been bloody swept. As long as he... This foul, it was a lot worse than that. The foul language came out telling the stage. She knew what she wanted. That's why she maintained being so big, you know.
But it's amazing the big names that went to these places, isn't it? You know, when you look now, you can't believe that they came to. I mean, what they must have, because we're from there, but what they must have thought to places like Batley and Greaseboro and all of these places.
Louis Armstrong played Batley. Louis played at Batley.
Yeah.
I compared as well for George Hamilton. Do you remember George Hamilton?
Oh, yes, country type guy.
Yeah. He had the #1 hit, Why Don't They Understand? Why don't they understand? Yeah. So he was coming. So Red Price was the leader of the band at that time. And Red was the most wonderful sax player, tenor, alto, tenor. And anyway, he said, well, what we'll do, we'll all get dressed up and make it all country. So we were all told we put boots on, check shirts, jeans. And George Hamilton arrived looking as though he'd come out behind the Halifax Building Society desk. He had a 3-piece suit on. He looked immaculate, and he looked at me and said, why is everybody dressed like this? Because we were all dressed like country with the trilbies and big Stetsons on, you know, and he was just perfect.
I think, again, it's like what you say, though, isn't it? You know, people now, because I often thought that Phoenix Nights, you know, with Peter Kay was just the sort of, a lot of it was borrowed from what the Wheel Tappers was. It turned into drama, you know, just very similar background and backlife. That world doesn't really exist as much now, does it, for us? I mean, they still have turns, because I go to a few of them, but they're not the same. It's not as fun, I don't think, you know.
Well, we had idols to look at and to want to be like. You know, I still see in the water. I remember seeing some of the people there, and I think, oh my goodness me, I used to not worship them, but followed all that, like George Martin. Yeah. George, the gentle comedian, was a wonderful time of a gag. So I used to watch that, but they've got nobody now who gives them what to do, how to do it correctly. You know, I mean, the audience then, you should always be dressed better than your audience.
Yes.
And that seems fallen by the wayside, because it's T-shirts and a black T-shirt and jeans now, and I can't be doing. I find that doing a lot of that we were taking off basically because of PC and all that, and I think there's a lot creeping in now, worse than we ever did.
Yes,
switching around. So, but they've got nobody who says this is how you should. They think, and also they do sets. They do A to Z. If you're going to see them one night, you're at L. And then you go in the next night, and they're in exactly the same place. After that length of time, they learn it as a script.
Yeah.
Whereas I walk out, even now, I walk out and I don't know what I'm going to. I know one gag, and then that's it. And because every audience is different.
Yeah, so and they want from you to view them differently, don't they? And then you work out in your computer brain what you're going to do to them. You know what I mean? Yeah.
At one time, I didn't realise I didn't work on it, but somebody said I had 12 tags of gags all like laid out on the stage because I would start one and then I would go, oh, I digress a minute, this blows, and then that would remind me of one. But the end of it, I used to bring all the tags back in gradually, get the laugh of that, the laugh of that, the laugh of that, and I finished up at the trunk of the tree, and that would be the big laugh at the end of it, and then people say, "How do you remember all those?"
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? I've got to mention also, because we're running out of time, because I could talk to you for hours. I've got to tell you, I've got to take you back to the film, as you mentioned earlier, Kes. What was it like when you became a film star at that point? What was that like for you?
Well, through working for Ken Loach was wonderful anyway. And I did 5 films for him. And also I got one really well with Colin Whelan. So I was in 2 or 3 armchair theatres. There was one on 81 on Talking Pictures the other night.
Oh, gosh.
It was set in Leeds, Slattery's Mounted Foot, that was on. So it was really good. It opened that door. And then to be accepted as a straight actor was good. I did a detective series called The Enigma Files. We did 2 years on that. So it just opened the other door through working for people like Ken Loach. And then I did one written by Sheila Delaney called The House That Jack Built.
Oh, yeah.
And there was only 2 people in that, myself and Sharon Deuce. And it was 10 years of marriage. And people used to say, your mother-in-law, and I said, there isn't a mother-in-law, because she was there, but never there. You never saw her. Yeah. Only the 2 of us, So it gave me, and the guy who directed that was Peter Hammond, who used to be part of the Huggies, with Kathleen Harris and all those.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, when we did our rehearsals at Shepperton, he was looking out the window, and Sharon and I were acting, because with a duo, there's only 2 of you. When the other one stops speaking, it's you next. Whereas if you've got a lot of people, you can talk. So I said, Peter, you keep looking out the window, and he said, Duggie, if it sounds right, it will be right. And since then, I've carried that forward with me.
Yeah.
If it sounds right, it will be right. Why don't need to sort of camera it?
Yeah. No, you're right.
I learned little from it, but it was the funniest. The first day I was working at the Morecambe Bowl for the Fighting McNultys, 2 brothers who used to scrap every night. And the compere was Mort Allen, but he changed his name from Alan Mort. What a big turnaround that was, wasn't it? Not thought into that name. Anyway, he compared. I finished my show at 2 o'clock, and then they said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing this thing. I'm doing part in this film. So I went over, and I was the milkman, and Ken Loach was there. The man from Northern Dairies arrived with the electric float, and it was pristine. It was like a commercial for Northern Dairies, with me with a white coat and all the orange juice all lined up with the name, a bottle of pasteurised milk, and eggs all in it. And Ken Loach and Tony go, and I went, no, that'll not do. And they set the stage crew to work on it. They drank half the bottles and put it on to make it look rickety as it was. It was like, and he got hold of my jacket, Ken, and just rubbed it on the floor like that and made it really, really filthy. They went, that's the one they did, it's to make it real.
And that's the thing that you learn from these people, isn't it? Because obviously, for you, when you're on stage, you know your own direction, you know what you're going to produce, you've got an idea. When you're on a set, you have to sort of take in other people and what the director wants, really. You know, it's kind of, it's a lot harder, I think, in a lot of respects.
You've got to absorb it, and then they do like if you can put some interpretation of your own in, you know, and that helps. If it helps, it goes on, and if it doesn't work, they will tell you. But if it works, it's good. It's good that keep that in.
I'm going to ask you finally, right, Duggie, is there a role that you haven't done yet as an actor that you'd like to still do? Is there somebody that you think, you know, that you think, yeah, on stage, I wish I'd have done that, or I'd still like to do a bit of that? What's the still, because you're obviously very active still, what's the role that you still wouldn't mind?
Well, I think it would be on now if we weren't in the situation, but Joe Pasquale, who I adore, I think he's wonderful. I watch him in Some Like It, or some others do have them, and he carries the show and all that, and he's quite a bit of a fan of mine as well, knowing I'm one of the older ones. But I'd love to do the Sunshine Boys or one of those with him, one of the Walter Matthau, Enter, or the Odd Couple, one of those just with me and him, and he wants to do it. So I think myself and him, we could do that. I'd love to do that. And also, I keep in my office a musical. You know, I want to do a musical. Yeah. I've sung in pantos and I've sung a couple of, but not a full known. I nearly got Dirty Dancing. Yeah. I thought I was going to be in that, the full tour of that, which went on for 3 years. It might have been too long. And I got down to the last 3 or 4, or 2 or 3 for Les Mis. Oh. Welcome to sit yourself down and meet the best innkeeper in the West End. And I got Recall. And then Alan Armstrong was doing it, decided he wasn't going to leave. Oh. So we'd offer you the tour, but the tour was like 6 months and it was not the best of money, and I thought, no, I couldn't afford it. So
do you know what? That's what I love about us Northerners. We love it, and then we look at the money and go, you know, no, it's right. You just think, I'll pass.
We're getting close to the end. I must tell you a really good story. I'm not big-headed, as I've told you. I'm just proud of what I've done. Oh, yeah. Right? And so I've done Kes, and Kes has gone out. So I've made it. I don't know what it looks like. So I'm at the Riviera Club in Hartlepool, and the guy, compere there, was called Ted Lithgow, 5 handicap golfer. Great guy, good man. So I'm walking in and I'm waiting for somebody to ask me, what have you been doing? Oh, well, I've just been doing this film for Ken Loach, you know, Kathy Come Home. Well, I did that. A star, you never know, it might be Hollywood next. And this Ted went, I've just done a film. And I went, oh, have you, Ted? Yeah. Yeah, he said, I'm playing Michael Caine's brother. So I went, oh, right. So it shot me down. I kept my mouth shut and walked out. And then about a year later, I'm up at the Riviera again, and Ted Lithgow went, you know that film I told you I'd done? It's on in Newcastle. Do you want to come and see it tomorrow? Mm. I went to see it. And he was playing Michael Caine's brother. It was Get Carter. He was his brother in the coffin at the beginning. First scene when Michael Caine goes to see his brother in the coffin. And that was Ted Lithgow.
It doesn't matter though, he's in the film, Duggie, you know what I mean? He's in the film. I love it when, you know, you must have met these people. I love it when they say things, you're sitting somewhere, and because my dad did quite a lot of extra work, and they'd sit there and say, when I was in this one, and then you look and it's like a crowd scene in a courtroom or something, you know, and you think, well, you won't be able to spot them from Adam, you know, but they go, I was in, and you think, oh, right, okay. King Rat, for you carrying on with King Rat, I'm so thrilled for you, but just tell us, you know, why it's so special to you to be King Rat. What, you know, when you got told, what was the feeling like?
I was terrible, over the moon for one thing. No, I was just so. My first thought was, can I do this? And I spoke to Jackie, and I said, are you sure we should do it? You know. And she said, yes, for goodness sake, do it. And she's been a gem. She's helped me through, because there's quite a lot of work. And prior to the virus, I had missed a lodge. I used to go down on the train every second Sunday and pay all my own fare and everything. Yeah. And I never missed a lodge in 3 years. And I was about the only one who did it. But I just wanted to get back into the water rats. That was all, to make myself known again. And so it really was a wonderful accolade as far as I was concerned. And then we had our ball, because the good thing is organising in the ball, and with it being mine, I mean, we had poor Nicholas Parsons was the King Rat the year before, and of course he was ill, quite ill most of the time. A wonderful guy, but quite ill, so he didn't it was not available to contribute a lot. Yeah. We organised the ball, but we said our ball is going to be the best ever, and we've got the Drifters, and they're all okayed for next year. We've got the Drifters, and we've got a violin, Gary Lavini, we've got Steve Rawlins, all different people and dancing. So we're building that, and that's Jackie's helping me with that.
Well, Dougie, it's been an absolute thrill to chat to you today. Thank you, honestly, so much for your time, and thank you so much for all the many years of laughter. You've been absolutely brilliant. And when you do your ball, let us know, and we'll come down and film it.
All right. Keep sensible. Hey.
Yes. Take care, love. Bye-bye.